Welcome back to the second segment of the September 1st Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
We'll call this the Grade 1 3-year-old segment. We'll look at the King's Bishop and the Travers, and we'll start off with the King's Bishop. Uncle Mo's return to the races, first start since the Wood Memorial, and we'll take a look at the break here.
Yeah, right away. I mean, everything really goes well for the horses. Uncle Mo, I mean, he's a step slow, but he's not really any problem. As a matter of fact, he's sort of better off being where he is. And Caleb's Posse, who has no speed, he drops back and gets to where he wants to be. You can split hairs in a lot of ways in this race and show the things that could have happened, but all in all, they were very good trips by both horses, and both horses ran very well.
Yeah, this is a problem that I have with this race moving forward, is that you know these horses are good, you know they got good trips, you don't necessarily want to bet against them next time out, but things can be a little bit different where they might not face the same scenario.
No, I agree, and Uncle Mo obviously has more room to move forward in a sense, because Caleb's Posse's put together these two good races in a row, and with Caleb's Posse, he may not get in a situation where he gets quick paces to close into. I don't think he's had monster collapses to close into. He's run well in these races, but will Uncle Mo be sitting comfortably behind a three-horse duel in his next start?
Well, that's the question here. Uncle Mo is sitting a perfect trip to this point beneath Johnny Velasquez. Three horses battling it out on the front end, and Flashpoint down toward the inside, run flat out in between horses. Poseidon's Warrior toward the outside. There's Uncle Mo, and Caleb's Posse will be getting back on the screen in short notice here through the inside from RG Mirage will angle outside. But we'll stop it again here and take a look at Caleb's Posse. But Uncle Mo right here at Johnny Velasquez is a big decision to make.
Yeah, he decides to move a little bit too soon. And people, a lot was made, and what's interesting here, we'll show them splitting horses. Keep your eye on the pink horse, Caleb's Posse, who gets that perfect ride from Regime Mirage, not a straw in his path. If Cool Blue Red had a little more horse and he kept him in a little bit and he had to move a little bit later, go around horses, he would have lost because the difference was a nose. I don't think that Uncle Mo was four wide in the turn and had this tough wide trip. He was sitting comfortably off a three-horse duel, and middle to late in the turn, Johnny moved him out in the four-path and went around. And you can argue and say, oh, he could have sat behind horses and waited for the split. He could have done that, and when it didn't work out, he would have been the goat of goats. John Velasquez knows what he's doing out there. He lost a race by a head bob on a terrific horse in a terrific horse race. I would never break it down to saying anybody made any mistakes here. If anything, you could say he was a little unlucky because everything went well for Caleb's Posse.
Everything did go well for Caleb's Posse. And yeah, I mean, if Velasquez stays behind there, he knows those speeds are getting tired. You're not supposed to sit behind three horses, especially when you have the best horse, or, everyone thought was the best horse in Uncle Mo and the big favorite going in there. You're supposed to get him to the outside, get him a clear run. And, he had a lead in the stretch and just got run down by a horse who was a little bit better on the day.
And a horse that's had a lot of recency, and he's been running races and running well. Uncle Mo, of course, hasn't run since the Wood Memorial. The bottom line for Uncle Mo is it's amazing that he was able to come back, and so many people did such an amazing job in getting him to come back and run as well as he did. And he reminded everybody why there was a lot of hype about him in the first place, because he's just a darn good racehorse. And they're both really good racehorses, and wherever they run, we can't wait to see them again, because they're going to put on a good show whatever race they're in.
Indeed, and the three-year-olds put on a great show in the Travers as well. We'll take a look at this race next, and we'll take a look at the start outside. It's Stay Thirsty and Shackleford toward the outside. Both horses, neither of them break all that great in here.
No, they don't get out as sharp as they could have. A little bit of a stumble from Stay Thirsty, but I think the one thing you take away from this race is that Stay Thirsty was a dominant winner of this race, and he did all the hard work. He kept Shackleford honest on the front end. Javier made Shackleford work for the lead. He kept him outside. He kept him honest in the backstretch. He put him away on the turn, and he held off the closers. I don't know what more a racehorse can do.
Yeah, we're going to look at a couple other horses toward the back. We had Raison d'Etat just highlighted before. There's Rattlesnake Bridge toward the outside, and JW Blue is the trailer at this point as they come under the wire for the first time.
Terrific ride by Johnny on Rattlesnake Bridge. JW Blue as well with Marino Velasquez. Second time a long shot has been third for Tony Dutrow, Alabama, as well as this race. But at Raison d'Etat, and this is a horse I like going the race. I'm not trying to make excuses for a horse I like that ran poorly. He obviously couldn't have won this race, but I thought Eddie Castro gave a very indecisive ride on him. He never got him to settle. Now, it's easier said than done, but he's a horse who probably needed to tuck in a little bit early. And instead of doing that, Eddie was kind of asking him early in the race. He needed to relax him and get him behind horses. A four-wide trip out in no man's land was never getting it done here.
And you could almost say the same thing here for Jesus Castanon aboard Shackleford, who, when he didn't break all that alertly and, it looked like he was going to have to do a little bit of work early on to get to the lead here, he just spent too much time trying to clear Stay Thirsty going in around that first turn, ended up way too wide. He would have just been better off sending him, getting him the lead, and see what happens after that.
I agree. Shackleford obviously doesn't run his race as well. I mean, he was practically eased in this race race, running 8th. He wasn't even close. He's a much, much better horse than that. But the point you're making is you got to ride him the right way. And the right way with him is use his speed. Take advantage of what his biggest asset is. And I feel like in a certain way they got away from that a little bit.
They did indeed. And, you know, what's so impressive about Stay Thirsty's win is this point right in here, and maybe the last eighth of a mile before this point, too, is that he just gets a momentary breather, and then he's back on the chase here against Shackelford, vying 2 wide. You see another horse coming up 3 wide there. The race looks like it's, at this point, it might be setting up for someone to come from off the pace, but the horses that come from off the pace and that run second and third are Rattlesnake Bridge, who's in fourth right now, and JW Blue, who's second to last on the screen right now. You know, they're just not as good as Stay Thirsty. And Stay Thirsty, you know, he ran a 2:03 final time for the Travers, which isn't all that impressive. The 101 Buyer might not be all that impressive, but I think you pick apart this race, you take a look at the work he did going into the first turn, going down the last half of the backstretch, at the top of the stretch here. You could argue that he could have been 3-4 lengths better, maybe.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all. I have no problem if somebody told me that it was going to take a 106 to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup, a 106 Buyer, and he was going to get an absolutely perfect trip. I'd bet a lot of money on him because you're right. He ran at least 2-3 lengths better, maybe even more so. You just think about the good ride that Rattlesnake Bridge got. Things could not have possibly gone better for Rattlesnake Bridge. And he closed the gap to length and a quarter at the end, and he was a little bit farther. You know, he could have lost by a little bit more. The point is, he may improve as a racehorse, but his circumstances in a horse race are not going to improve from here. Everything went perfect for him, and he was second best. Everything didn't go perfectly for Stay Thirsty. He was just the best horse in this race.
And I'm very curious to see what Stay Thirsty does down the road the second half of the year for trainer Scott Pletcher or Mike Rapoli, a horse that seems to be developing, right now this time of year. Has not run particularly well shipping outside of New York, so we'll see what happens with the Breeders' Cup, but I'm really interested to see how he does in the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Yeah, I certainly hope he runs there. Obviously, he's behind Tisway at this point, and we'll see what happens in the Woodward this weekend, but there's no reason that he can't move forward and make some noises in these races. Look, he's a horse that has won me over, that's for sure.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Trips and Traps. Thanks for watching up here at Saratoga. Certainly a lot of great races to cover, and we've certainly enjoyed the opportunity.
We always do, and we'll see you when we get back to Belmont.